The NFL draft is over. The Titans may have got their future at a handful of positions. Let's talk about it next on the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. Sammy, start me up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans! He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back for our third episode in 4 days as the NFL draft is now over and the Tennessee Titans drafted what could be the future at a handful of positions. Welcome back, Jarrett. We're going to hold it down tonight, just you and I, as Salvatore is MIA. We might send out an APB up in North Jersey to get an all-points bulletin on one Salvatore Manfredi. If anyone knows where he's at, please let us know. But more importantly, let's talk about what happened the last few days, Jared. How are we feeling about the Titans draft?
Listen, you're seeing a lot of analysis going on by the experts, the draft experts, saying that we had a solid draft. And in my opinion, I made the tweet earlier this morning after the draft was over. I let everything marinate, and I said, hey, you know what? We had a lot of key positions of need in this draft. So I'm very happy with it. We had a great two offensive linemen, and we brought two offensive linemen in there because obviously offensive line was a huge disappointment last year. And Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon really tackled it so far this offseason and in the draft. So, I mean, we got potential, starters at all positions. You got a backup running back, Will Levis, and we're going to get into everything right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we should start out, obviously, with the first pick, and that was Peter Skoronski with the 11th pick of the draft. There was a lot of rumors the day before the draft, the day of the draft, of us trading up for maybe C.J. Stroud. Everyone got us excited with the DeAndre Hopkins rumor as well. It didn't transpire, but guess what? We got what could be one of the safest picks in this draft in Peter Skoronski. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he could be a potential Hall of Famer. I think at a minimum, you're going to get an all-pro player for multiple years, a starter from day one. An offensive lineman is never the sexy pick in the first round, but if you look back at what this team has done, Jack Conklin, Taylor Lewan, successful picks that we took early. And when you're building a team, I hate to, beat a dead horse, but you build it from the inside out. So if you look at free agency, you look what we did in the draft, we're adding to the offensive line, which is never a bad idea. So I know you did your research on Skoronski. How do we feel about that pick? I'm personally giving it an A+. I mean, you can't go wrong. A lot of people didn't think he would be there at 11, and he was, and we made what I think is the safest pick in the draft.
Yeah, safest for sure. And like you said, Rand played the board well. He didn't think that Skoronski was going to be there. A lot of the experts, again, had Skoronski as one of the best offensive tackles or offensive lineman, interior too, the best in the draft. So that's a huge plus for us. He's going to be a staple on this offensive line. So my question to you is, not even before you even get to the question, like I said, I brought up the podcast before. He was the only lineman in the league in the NCAA with 860 plus snaps with 6 or few pressures. I mean, just to think about that, the guy could be on the island and handle his own. I mean, we got a huge piece to that offensive line. So my question to you is, do you plug him in and play him at left tackle or left guard?
I think it's going to be a battle in camp between Dilliard and Skoronski. I think you're going to get both of those guys playing snaps at tackle and at guard to see what works best. But what I love about it is the fact that we're even having this conversation, the fact that he is a versatile offensive lineman, and whether he plays tackle or whether he plays guard, he will be a day one starter. And let's not forget, Dilliard's deal is only a 3-year deal where I think after the second year, we could probably get out of it for next to nothing. So, even if Dilliard starts at tackle day one and we have Skoronski playing guard, if we need to plug and play Skoronski at left tackle because Dilliard isn't up to snub, or in 2 years, if he's not on the team, we can plug and play him at left tackle instead of left guard. I think he's going to start out as a guard. I think it's a bit of an easier transition for an offensive lineman coming into the league to start out as a guard as opposed to a tackle. But I would not be surprised at all, if he started out as left tackle and Dilliard was our left guard. like you said, I think it was only 6 pressures he allowed, which to me is just absolutely insane. It's absurd.
860 snaps. That's
Yeah,
a lot.
it's absolutely wild. And I think that, sometimes even a player can get unlucky and let up, 10 pressures, 15 pressures. But the fact that this kid only let up 6 pressures out of all those snaps, to me, I mean, it only speaks to his ability. And I think we can put him at left tackle. We can put him at left guard. But I'm going to say, for argument's sake, day one, he starts out at left guard. How do you feel about it?
I definitely agree with you on that. Just because, let's not forget, Dilliard was drafted in the first round.
Yep.
And it was a hell of an offensive tackle at Washington State. So with those two, and he was in a crowded offensive line room in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. I mean, he kind of got the shit end of the stick. I mean, he's
starting in Tennessee now.
Yeah, he failed to stay healthy in Philly, and then Mailata kind of took over the job and never looked back. And, that happens. But the kid has immense ability, and we're going to see how it plays out on the left side of the offensive line. But the fact that he is that versatile only speaks to his ability. But I'm going to assume that he plays left guard from day one. But obviously in camp, I think you're going to see them play both positions. And however it works out best is how Vrabel is going to, start him and Dilliard, whether it's left guard, left tackle, we'll see.
Yeah, I love how the line is shaping up already so far.
Oh, absolutely. People wanted to complain that we didn't go JSN, and I understand. But guess what? How many of us complained all year long about how atrocious this offensive line was? And then you have Titans fans complaining that we drafted an offensive lineman. So it's like, you can't have it both ways.
I know. We wanted everything.
Exactly, and I understand that, JSN would have been the sexy pick, but I think you can never go wrong with a guard or an offensive lineman that can play guard and tackle.
Yeah.
Who's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, All Pro, hopefully a Hall of Famer, and is with us for the next 10 years. Yeah. So I like the pick. It's hard to get excited over an offensive lineman, but we bitched and complained all last year about that line. And what did they do in free agency? They addressed it. What did they do in the draft? They addressed it. So sometimes it's just hard to please everybody. But I love the pick. But what we did after that, I think, is what everybody wants to talk about a little, because we have some kids already saying this kid is going to be a bust. He's going to be in the XFL in a few years. Then you have your people who think he was the best quarterback in the draft. So at 33, technically was the second pick in the second round. But there was no 32nd pick that was in the first round this year because of the forfeited pick by the Dolphins. So with the second pick in the second round, the Titans traded up, and they traded away a third rounder next year to move up.
They swapped thirds. They gave up a third round next year, and I think something else.
Well, either way, we traded up and gave away a high pick next year to go get what could be our future franchise quarterback in Will Levis. So how do we feel about that? Because I know the other night you and I were basically kind of shitting on him a little bit, but now we have no choice but to support him. So
we have no choice to support him, is right. I mean, I was not a fan of the pick. I would have rather had a receiver in Mingo or Michael Mayer, like we talked about live on Saturday night. I think it was. Yes. Friday night. Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. Yep.
Friday night. I have some things, I was bored today, so I put a scouting report on all of our draft picks. So like I said before, his pros for Will Levis: he's tough as nails, big arm, physical, strong in the pocket, good mobility. That's what we always talked about on this podcast that Ryan Tannehill kind of lacked. So, I mean, it's a positive going forward if this guy takes over next year, because I don't believe it's going to be this year. I think they're going to play out Ryan Tannehill's contract, and he's going to sit for 1 year because he was not fully healthy last year at Kentucky, even with the toe injury. So sit, learn, develop, start in year 2. His cons, we also talked about on Friday night. He has frozen eyes. He's inconsistent with his field vision and anticipation when he throws the ball. Late on the trigger and gives defenders more time to get to the wide receivers. So, I mean, how many project quarterbacks are we going to take at this point? Malik Willis kind of had the same scouting report a little bit. I know everyone talks about, the risk and reward. Yeah, the risk and reward. I want that stone cold concrete lock at quarterback to say, this is a can't miss Andrew Luck type guy. So I don't want to be in limbo and be like, oh man, I'm sweating, because we want the Super Bowl just as much as any other team. And we got a new stadium coming in 2027. So you want to be a winning team with a great quarterback in 2027 by the time this all rolls out. So what do you think of Mr. Benetti and Will Levis?
Well, I was going to say, if we don't want to start on the cons, but you forgot to add that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and eats the bananas with the peels on it. Yeah. Although he did come out and say that that's just a joke. I don't even know I'm a jokester, if I would joke like that, because you're just compromising.
Mr. Titan did it on Twitter the other night. He ate the banana with the coffee.
I mean, I've been drinking black coffee since I was like 15 years old. So you're compromising the integrity of the coffee with cream and sugar, let alone fucking mayonnaise. So hopefully that's a joke. But like you said, big guy, 6'3", 225, 230, cannon of an arm. Tough kid, mobile, athletic. But at the end of the day, like you said, what scares me is the fact that he seems to lock on to receivers. He seems to get happy feet sometimes in the pocket. The Orlovsky clip I was having nightmares about, where he had a clean pocket, could have checked it down to the running back, but decided to run right into his offensive lineman because he was trying to make a play with his legs. Now at Kentucky, I've heard that he did have a receiving core that wasn't all that talented. He had an offensive line that was probably the worst in the SEC. But at the end of the day, I mean, that could very well happen in the NFL too. So you want to have a quarterback who can adjust to those things. Can he adjust to it? We'll see. Now, at first, when we first drafted him, I think you and I kind of agreed we should maybe let him sit for a year behind Tannehill. But the only thing that kind of scares me when I sit back and think about it is, because we didn't get him in the first round, we got him in the second, we don't have that fifth-year option. So if we sit him this year, we're only going to have 3 years to figure out what he can do. So I can completely understand why someone would want to not bench him, but let him sit behind Tannehill for a year, let him learn, let him get adjusted to the NFL and the speed of it. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, if you do that, and Tannehill's obviously gone next year, you're only going to have 3 years for this kid to prove what he can do. Now, people will say, well, that should be enough time to figure out whether he's your guy or not. True, but at the end of the day, I'd rather part of me starting to wish that, maybe we release Tannehill after June 1st, save the $27 million, maybe go sign a receiver, maybe go make a splash, who knows, for a Hopkins. I'm still holding on to that dream. But maybe we cut Tannehill, save the $27 million, and throw this kid in from day one and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather see what he can do over 4 years as opposed to 3. So we'll see what they do. I do think at worst he will be our second-string quarterback. I think Malik Willis will, I don't wish any bad on the kid, but I think either we trade him for, whatever, a 7th-round pick, or we release him. But I do think going forward, if Tannehill, is there, it's going to be Tannehill and Levis. If, Tannehill isn't going, then we're going to probably have to keep Malik. That's neither here nor there. But there's a part of me who kind of wants him to start from day one to see what he could do. But we'll see.
With this depleted wide receiving core, I mean, yeah, you could try to get somebody in Rabel, and Carton touched on the press conference the other day that he said, just because the draft's over, Monday's Monday, we can go sign players in free agency still. We can go trade. We can go make trades. We understand that the wide receiver room is basically shit. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, obviously they know that they didn't do that, and especially them trolling us with the wave on, when they were picking. It was funny, but like they obviously know they're the pros. We're just the guys that say, "Hey, this guy's out there. Go get him in the 6th round." Like how many 6th-round draft picks are that dude? Besides,
for every Stephon Diggs, there's a million guys who don't care.
And he was drafted in the 4th too.
5th, I think.
Yeah, I mean, either way. So, I mean, for us to pound the table like that, it's kind of stupid. So they obviously know that too. So, I mean, they know what they're doing. But I was talking today to my brother, like, wide receivers are so bad. I know. I mean, we're getting a little off script here, but just to talk about it, the wide receivers are so bad. They said there could be cuts coming, before training camp or after training camp. There's a Corey Davis signing come back. Hell, people may make fun of me right now, but if you look at what's out there right now, the only person that I would try to kind of give a contract to would be a 1-year deal for $2 million to Kenny Golladay. I don't know what the hell happened to him in New York.
He got paid a lot of money and stopped.
Exactly. Something has to give. Give him a prove it deal. He's a big target. Who knows? I mean, I would take him over fucking NWI at this point.
I wouldn't hate that, I guess. He doesn't seem like he's a Vrabel guy. If you're a lazy receiver, like it seems like Galladay was, in New York, then I don't think it's going to work out in Tennessee when you have a coach like Vrabel who ain't going to take your shit. I'm a big Jarvis Landry fan. I know he's over the hill, but guess what? He played with Tannehill in Miami. I think he's a class act. I think he would be a great mentor to our younger guys. And I think that you can get him for pennies on the dollar for a one-year deal for a few million. And why not? I still think he can play ball a little bit. But most importantly, at this point in his career, he's going to be a mentor to our younger guys. He's got a bit of a connection with Tannehill if you're going to keep him. But it's also sad that you and I are clamoring for Kenny Galladay and Jarvis Landry. And then you have the rest of Titans Twitter clamoring for Corey Davis, which in the same breath, I wouldn't be mad if they brought him back either. But speaking of offensive weapons, someone we drafted in the 3rd round who I was very excited over, even though I wish we would have took Darnell Washington, was Tyjae Spears. Electric talent, can catch the ball out of the backfield, had, I think, 1,800 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving, over 20 touchdowns between rushing and receiving. Obviously, there's concerns about his knee. They're saying he doesn't have an ACL. And in that case,
I don't give a shit. He's got explosiveness.
Yeah, I mean, and I have an exercise science degree. It took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree, but I know a little bit about the body. And what happens is, in that case, when the ACL is completely gone, what your body basically does is it builds up a bunch of scar tissue to kind of take its place. I'm not too worried about it because obviously he had this issue at Tulane, and it didn't seem to hinder his ability. Plus, I don't think this kid's going to be getting 20 touches a game. He's going to be getting between 5 to 10 touches a game, maybe, but electrifying talent, pretty decent size. I think, what was he, about
5'10", 200 pounds.
Yeah, 5'10", 200 pounds, not the biggest, not the smallest, but maybe a compliment finally we find for Henry to, complement his bruising style. We got a quick guy out of the backfield who can catch the ball. And going forward, we're going to have to look for life after Henry one day, as sad as it may be. Maybe he could be that guy. We'll see. I'm not too worried about the knee. I was talking to my brother on the phone about running backs because he said, what do you think you guys are going to do like in the middle rounds? You're going to add a receiver? You're going to add a back? And I said, absolutely. And then there's a kid from Tulane who I absolutely love. I couldn't think of his name at the moment, but we ended up drafting him. So I understand the concerns about his knee, but it didn't seem to hinder him in his last year at Tulane. And I don't think he's going to be carrying such a load where we have to worry about it early on in his career in Tennessee. We'll see how that plays out. And then we didn't have a 4th round. Well, before I go on, how do you feel about
just to reiterate what you're trying to say is because you took a lot of what I was going to say right out. You hit everything. I have electric runner, pairs well with Henry. He's going to absolutely showed out at the Senior Bowl this year. Everybody was talking to him. I think he even got an award at the Senior Bowl because I actually watched the Senior Bowl. I said, who the hell is this guy, man? He shows elusive speed. And that's what I have here, great elusiveness. And he's a major long run speeder, and he's a human highlight reel. Basically, so if you pair him with Henry and you give him 12 touches a game, just take the load off of Henry going into his last year of his contract. Get this guy in open space. Go two running back sets and have him go out there. Henry go out into the flat too. I mean that's just another weapon to this offense too out of the backfield. And also in college, in total, he had a 6.9 average per carry.
That's wild.
That's wild too for a 5'10" guy like that. Yeah, 7 yards a clip. So, I mean, this guy can play football, man. So I'm not worried about that ACL at all.
Because he doesn't have one, so there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But then we'll skip.
It is the diamond of the rough, I think, out of all of our picks, though.
I agree. And there's a lot of people bitching and complaining about the fact that, his knee could be a problem. But guess what? You're paying this kid next to nothing for 4 years. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But
what does it have to say about like Haskins and Dontrell Hilliard? Are they moving on with him? Obviously, because Tyjae Spears is a different runner than Hassan Haskins.
I think that Haskins was a John Robinson guy, obviously. So who knows how Rand Carthon feels about him. I think we're probably done, unfortunately, with Hilliard. He gave us some great memories, was a great sub for Henry when Henry got hurt, when we had him and Dante Foreman. But I think going forward this year, it's going to be at least 3 running backs make the roster. And I'm going to say it's obviously going to be Henry, Spears, and Haskins.
Yeah.
Would love to keep Hilliard, but I just don't think there's going to be room for him. We'll see, though. We did not have a 4th-round pick, if I believe. In the 5th round, we took John Wiley, I believe, correct? Josh Wiley, if you're listening. Josh Wiley in the 5th round, monster of a human being, 6'6", 250.
Love it. 6'7".
6'7".
Don't take an inch off of him.
No,
that's a big boy.
I wish I had an extra inch in a few different ways. You know what I'm saying? But what are you going to do? But I like his athleticism. Looked very elusive in space for someone that big. I know a lot of people wanted us to go with my boy A.T. Perry in that round. But I think this is going to be a nice compliment to Chig. Like you said, you're a big fan of the 12 personnel. I think we're going to get a lot of that this year. And Chig is your athletic tight end who's going to run every route in the book, size, speed. And then Wiley's going to be like your freak of nature, I think. Your big boy who's going to block, who's going to do everything you're asked of him. So when they first picked him, I was like, who's this guy? And then they showed his highlights. Only had 300 or 400 yards, I think, this year and a few touchdowns. But at the end of the day, not many college tight ends put up gaudy numbers, and the ones that do get picked in the first few rounds. But a great value pick, I believe, in the 5th round, monster of a human being. And I think he's going to be a contributor, most likely, probably from day one. So how do you feel about it?
Sure as I hope so. At 6'7", 250, this kid runs a 4.6 40.
Yeah.
Kid's fast. He's got speed. Man, and in his career, he had 88 receptions, 1,062 yards, and 15 touchdowns. So he definitely has a nose for the end zone. Again, 2 tight end sets, throw this man the ball. 6'7" target in the red zone. Kid's got speed, huge receiving profile, high points the ball very well, and he's very versatile on the field.
And had to play in some big games too, because Cincinnati was
some of his cons, though, I was reading some people, with the scouting reports, and I've seen his run after the catch ability. He's just a catch it and drop kind of guy. His run blocking, which is kind of weird because Vrabel loves run blocking tight ends, as we know. Jeff Swaim. See you later, buddy. But pairing him with Chig is going to be an absolute nightmare with 12 personnel, I think, because a huge target like this, young kid running 4.6. Because I think Chig. I think he is the fastest tight end in this draft, and Chig was the fastest tight end in last year's draft. So we got monsters. So hopefully they're trying to build something. We just need a wide receiver to pair with that now.
Tell me about it. But in the 6th round, we did not address the receiver position. We addressed another offensive lineman who they talked pretty highly of, Kuiper and the crew when they got drafted.
Daniel Jeremiah loves him before you even say anything.
And what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Jalen Duncan. He's a 6'6" monster of a man, 360 pounds. Everyone calls him the diamond in the rough. They said that he is the more pro-ready tackle in this year's class and could possibly be the best offensive lineman that comes out of this draft in a couple of years to come. So
that's some high praise.
Yeah, that's when I saw that, I wrote that down real quick after what DJ said. I said, okay, let's go. Technically experienced, and he blocks on an island, and he wins every single time, they say. So, again, you go from Dennis Daly to a guy like this and a guy like Peter Skoronski. You got Andre Dillard now and Burnskill. Our offensive line with 4 guys right there, love it so far.
Absolutely. You can never go wrong with adding someone else to the offensive line room. Like you said, we added those guys in free agency. Do 6th, 7th round draft picks pan out in general? Most of the time not. Offensive linemen, most of the time not. But like you said, a lot of people called him the diamond in the rough at the offensive line position in this draft. And I'm all for it. You can never go wrong with taking another lineman. And you got to think that Chig probably had nothing but great things to say about him because that was his teammate over in Maryland. And if you look at all the players we drafted, very, very intelligent. You brought that up.
Just going to say that.
Yeah, that test that they talked about, not saying scoring high on tests are going to bring you to a Super Bowl, but it's clear that going forward, Tennessee wants to add a certain type of player, a player that's intelligent, a player that possesses high athleticism at every position, a player that possesses high intelligence at every position. And I think if you add enough of those guys, hopefully you hit on more of them than you don't. So In the 6th round, we took a flyer on this kid, and I'm all for it. And guess what? When you're with the Tennessee Titans and their offensive line, we say he's a 6th-round pick. He can end up being a starter sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
But if you look at what the Titans did in free agency and in the draft, we clearly added to our biggest need, and that was the offensive line. So, again, a lot of Titans fans were upset about it. He's an offensive lineman. He's not a receiver, this, that, and the third. But in the same breath, we also bitched all year about how we had no time to throw. Henry was getting hit in the backfield. Henry ran for almost 1,550 yards with the worst offensive line in football. So the way we retooled this offensive line, if Henry, knock on wood, can stay healthy, I think he can have another monster year. Finally, in the 7th round, we took a receiver from University of Tennessee, Martin, I believe the name of the college is. Jared, I'll let you start with this because I know you played little receiver in high school. Maybe not tall or fast or whatnot, but I'm sure you're a really good blocker. I'm sure Vrabel would have really loved you on his team.
Vrabel definitely would have loved me. not a burner. I ran a 4.7, so I did have hands though.
Okay, all right.
The kid's 6'3", 211. Holds the all-time record at UT Martin, which what says much. I have 2,700 yards and 19 touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's a 7th-round coin flip at this point.
What is his name? Colton Dowell?
Colton, Dowell.
Something like that.
Yeah. I don't,
hopefully he makes us remember his name.
Yeah, hopefully he does that. All I know is just a couple things I wrote down for him. He has 600-yard games in 2022. He did have 100 yards against University of Tennessee, like everybody said. It's a coin flip. They just probably they picked him because he's a hometown kid, and they said, "Fuck it, we need a wide receiver."
Yeah,
which is very weird to me. Now we went through every single draft pick we had. There's a constant thing going on here. We went all offense for the first time, I think, in the draft.
Good,
right?
We needed to.
What
about that?
What about value picks on the defense?
Yeah, I understand that, but I also think we addressed a lot of that in undrafted free agents. I was a big fan of the kid they took from Eastern Kentucky. Last name's McClendon. Randomly saw some clips from him on Twitter from somebody. I don't know who it was. Someone I follow that posted clips of someone that they thought could be a late round sleeper, and the kid is fucking nasty, man. So as far as the undrafted free agent that we signed, I don't know all of them. I know we got this kid, and I was happy about it.
I have one when you're done.
Okay.
I think is going to be an absolute star, hopefully.
Well, we got that kid Copeland, the receiver from Maryland, too. We got the receiver from Georgia as well.
Yeah.
So, we picked a player from the national champion, so can never be too mad about that to add.
Shout out your boy, the running back from Cincinnati.
What was his name?
Charles McClellan or something like that?
No, that was the McClendon. That's the guy from Eastern Kentucky, the defensive line.
I thought that was the running back from Cincinnati.
No, we might have got a running back from Cincinnati, but the guy I was talking about was McClendon. He's a defensive end from Eastern Kentucky. We did also take a kid from Division II.
That's who I have right here from Ferris State, Division II, Caleb Murphy, edge guy. What a fucking machine this kid is.
25 sacks, set the
25 and a half sacks, led all NCAA divisions, and 39 tackles for a loss last year. Are you fucking kidding me? Kid's a monster. Those stats alone, I don't give a shit what college you go to. 39 tackles for a loss and 25 and a half sacks. Hope this kid pans out, man. That is the diamond of the rough for undrafted free agents so far.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. I mean, usually there's a handful of them that maybe make the team every year. But as far as going all offense in this draft, I think that we have a lot of faith in this defense. I think we have one of the top 3 to 5 defensive lines in this league. We still have the best safety in this league, in my opinion, Kevin Byard. If not the best, he's also top 5 at his position. We have a cornerback room that I think is still young and has ability. So I think we have a lot of confidence in our defense. Could we have taken a defensive player with one of our 6 picks? Sure. But I think where we really needed to improve upon was the offensive side of the ball.
Definitely agree.
And so could you say, we could have took someone in the 6th round instead of the guy from Maryland, or we could have took someone in the 7th round instead of the receiver from UT Martin. But guess what? I think this team had a plan going into the draft. They stuck to it. They drafted all offensive players, and we'll see how it works out. I think we have complete confidence in this defense. It's a defense that was still top in the league last year without Harold Landry. We're getting him back.
We had so many injuries, dude. So many.
And we added players, Sean Murphy Bunting, Aziz Al-Shaair.
Yep.
I know there's another name I'm forgetting, Arden Key.
Yeah.
So I think this defense is going to be just fine, and I think that's another reason why we picked all offensive players. We'll see how it works out. I'm looking forward to it. I still think this is a winnable division. Time will tell. But I'm not mad about this draft. A lot of Twitter GMs are saying, "Oh, it was awful. Levis is going to be a bust, and we didn't take a receiver until the 7th round, and we could have took JSN." But a lot of Twitter GMs are Twitter GMs for a reason, and that's because they don't know shit. So I think if you look at it from the big picture, we added to the offensive line in free agency and in the draft. We took a quarterback that was a value pick that people were talking about could have been a top 5 pick all week. Indy said if Richardson was gone, they were going to take him at 4. Who knows if there's any truth to that? But with the 33rd pick and us trading up to get him, you got to think that they like this kid. So we'll see, if he starts from day one, if we cut Tannehill. We'll see how it plays out. But all in all, I'll give this draft a B+. We'll see how it works out. Obviously, we don't know yet, but that's my grade for them. Other than that, though, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean you're going a little south on me with the B+. I would definitely give it an A. I'm not giving it an A- or an A+. Like I said, I love the picks of Duncan and Skoronski. I love Josh Wiley at tight end, 6'7", monster of a man. And Tajay Spears is, like I said, a diamond in the rough, and I think he's going to be a great compliment to Derrick Henry. And the biggest coin flip of this whole entire draft, which everybody believes that he could have been possibly the best player almost in this draft, or best quarterback in this draft, is Will Levis. I'm not saying as of today that I don't support the kid. I do support the kid. He's on my favorite football team. I'm doing a podcast, for Christ's sakes, about it. Okay? I'm not a fan of him. I don't know if I believe in him yet. He played in a pro style offense at Kentucky. Okay, I don't know much really about him. I know that C.J. Stroud was him. I know Bryce Young was him. I need to see the Josh Rosen. Jesus Christ, Josh Allen comp that everyone's saying he is. He's got the height. He's got the weight. He's got a cannon of an arm. So does Josh Allen. I'm
sure there was a lot of Bills fans that weren't high on Josh Allen getting picked at 7th out of Wyoming, and even his early on in his career, he was
struggled,
not all that great, but with time and patience and surrounding him with real ability, he's one of the premier quarterbacks in this league now. So,
that's why my bad. That's why coaching plays a huge factor into this, because who was his quarterback coach, the last couple of years up in Buffalo? Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll did wonders with Daniel Jones this year. So now we're inserting Charles London over here with Tim Kelly running the offense. Tim Kelly ran the offense with Deshaun Watson and developed him into an unstoppable passer before he kind of went to the massage parlors. He went to the massage parlors, But Charles London's supposed to be this guy. Tim Kelly's supposed to be this guy. I hope to God, for all of our sakes, as Titan fans, that this kid develops to be our star going into this new stadium now in 2027 too. So I'm praying.
Yeah, and Jonathan Vogel, I brought him up, on the last podcast as well. Kid is very intelligent, our draft analyst, and he knows Charles London personally. I think he believes and said he is a phenomenal quarterbacks coach. And I think that Tennessee and their staff has full faith in what he's going to do with Will Levis. I think he's going to coach him up. And now we have nothing to be optimistic, because guess what? There's no point in hoping the kid fails. We got to hope that he pans out, because guess what? If he pans out, if all of our other picks don't pan out, but he pans out, this draft was a win. And we know Skoronski's going to pan out, because those linemen that get drafted that high, maybe not 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, but let's just say 7 out of 10 times, those linemen that get picked that high usually pan out. It translates to the NFL well. So let's say he pans out, and if Levis can pan out, then this draft was a win. And God forbid Skoronski doesn't pan out. If Levis pans out and we have our guy for the next decade, I don't give a fuck if every other pick is a bust, because this fan base and this franchise has needed a quarterback since our boy McNair, RIP, literally, I'm not going to talk about what happened, but we haven't had a franchise quarterback since McNair. Okay, we're going on, what, 15, 20 years now? So if this kid can be it, then by all means, this draft was a win. Time will tell. I think we're going to be patient with him. I think there's going to be an adjustment phase, as there usually is with quarterbacks. Very rarely do they just come in day one and light up the league. Even Mahomes sat his rookie year. So we'll see what happens and what their plan is with him. But we have nothing to be, like I said, but to be optimistic. So I'm all for it. I'm all in. Anything else you would like to say?
Just it was a great draft. Hopefully, going forward in this week, we can get some fans on to get their reactions to the draft and whether they like Will Levis, hate Will Levis, love the picks. We don't know. Hopefully, we can get some special guests on here. I know we have a list that is written down of some really, really, really special guests. Hopefully, we get on soon. And
at this point, I think Sal would be a special guest. He's in the podcast.
I hope something keeps going on. Hopefully we see something like a receiver getting signed. Looking forward to the rookie mini camps here in, I think, 2 weeks. I think they report.
Yep.
And then we have the schedule release May 11th. So we'll see what our beloved Titans will be doing, where they're going to be playing. So maybe we can start scheduling some trips up to games.
Absolutely. And the Thursday night podcast was sponsored by Rolling Rock. The Friday night one was sponsored by Jack Daniels. This one on Sunday night is sponsored by Peroni, my favorite beer. Astro Azzurro. If you're going to drink Italian. Sammy, take us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.